Hello and welcome to the Kushmerek Connection. I'd like to start by thanking FATV, and we are recording this in the Workers Credit Union studios. Joining me today, our first guest is City Councilor Amy Green. Amy, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes. Here we are again.
Exactly. This is pretty much where we started 10 years ago, right?
10 years ago, yeah. Angelo was with us.
Angelo Bezal, and I miss Angelo every day. He was such a great person to collaborate with. And I remember the three of us as, I don't even know that we were sworn in when we appeared in studio. We were, dare I say, a little bit clueless.
Deer in headlights, had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
We were being asked questions, and we were like, that's a great question.
Right.
I hope to have an answer next year.
Right, yeah. There's times that I still go through that, right? Great question.
Every
wish
day.
I had the answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, wish I had the answer.
Always learning, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of being on the city council, right? You learn something new about your community every day.
Well, it's evolving, it's changing, it's knowing how to literally roll with the punches, taking on the fights that you can take on and letting the other stuff just kind of work its way out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're in your 10th year, right, on the city council, 5 terms in. 5 terms. Can you believe that?
Can you believe that? Right. No, and I will continue to be here as long as the people want me to, be a somewhat reasonable voice for them. At times that can
I like
be
the caveat there.
Exactly. Yeah, that can be questionable at times, but people know me, so that's where we are. But we're moving forward every day, which is what I'm thankful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So much progress. It's hard to see it as you're going through it, right? But if you do that snapshot comparison of where were we as a community 10 years ago and where are we today?
And that's not hard to do. Right. I mean, one trip, Morin Square down Main Street, and we see it. It's happening. Now, again, I'm not the most patient person. People know this. So the fact that there are projects that have taken 10 years to get started and or accomplished, I'm fine with that because at least we're making progress.
I agree with you. I'm not the most patient person either. When I first started this, I thought, I'm working towards those changes because I want those changes for me. Right. I want the nightlife downtown, and I want cultural activities downtown because I want to go there as a young adult and a young professional. Yeah. And quickly I realized that, yes, I still hope to enjoy many of those things myself, but it's also about we plant the tree today so the next generation can enjoy it. And that can be frustrating because the wheels of change do take forever. But really within a decade, we've seen entire blocks of Main Street go from abandoned and without hope to seeing a whole new life and generation. And Morin Square, you just said it, 44 new units coming in downtown, a new diner, 3 or 4 new businesses have opened right there from scratch within the past year. We're really seeing that progress and change unfold right before our eyes.
Right. And then, Jerry Martell Square last week, that was awesome. What a nice turnout, what a nice legacy, to continue to live on. Because again, if we could all just at times be more like Jerry Martell, a good steward for this community.
Absolutely.
Positive every day about this community and where we're going, that speaks volumes.
I mentioned it just last week, and for folks tuning in just recently, in May we dedicated, was that June, maybe June 1st?
Yeah.
We dedicated the corner of North Street and Main Street, that plaza, as Jerry Martell's Square, because he had a record store for generations right there where the CVS now stands on Main Street. And it brought in visitors from all over the state and all over New England. It was one of the premier record and music stores of New England.
Right. Think about, though, everything that he did, everything that he was involved in was before his time, really.
Right.
The automobiles. I mean, he's known, for the high-end appraisals on cars that nobody would have any idea what the actual value of those would be.
For vehicles whose name people never knew even existed, right? And I think beyond just the business aspect of what he did was this figure who was larger than life, who really was just all in on Fitchburg and cared so deeply about Fitchburg and seeing its growth. He had seen it go through the ebbs and the peaks and the valleys of economic development. he saw Fitchburg at its very pinnacle, its Gilded Age, and he was always working towards what is that next Gilded Age of Fitchburg, and what does that look like, and just the time and the effort that he devoted beyond just business to civic engagement, to community, and to the people around him. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, it's too bad, because if more people took the lead on that and stepped up and just did their part or contributed in a positive way, we would have the turnaround, and it wouldn't take long.
And so you and I came together with Joe Byrne to put in that petition 3 years ago, and and when we talk about we're not too patient, I don't think any of us were about this. When we filed that petition in 2019, we thought within 3 or 4 months that square would be dedicated, and it certainly took longer than we had hoped. But here we are 3 years later. With a formal dedication ceremony, and his family came in from all over the region, and that wouldn't have happened. So thank you for joining me at the Burns there and pushing that forward.
Never thinking that it would take that long, honestly.
But I think it's so critical that when we have people like Jerry and like so many others that step up, that just devote their entire life to the community, that we find a way to recognize them. Because if you don't thank the people that do this throughout an entire lifetime, if you don't recognize them, how do you inspire that next generation to want to do the same thing?
Right. Well, I think that we have to get them involved young.
Right.
Like we have to reach out to, the kids at middle school and say, this is what it is to be a civic leader, or, like-minded people in our community moving forward.
Right.
And get them involved that way.
Well, so you got involved. You jumped in kind of, head first into the deep end, of our community. But you weren't born and raised here, right?
No.
What was it? How did you come to Fitchburg? Because I think so everybody knows you as, Amy Green, the city councilor, or Amy Green, the successful businesswoman. How did you get here to start? And what made you say, yes, this is what I want to do, and I want to get involved in our community?
Well, so Brian and I, my husband, we moved out to the East Coast on our honeymoon. So we are both originally from Illinois. That's been, 34 years ago. And what happened is that, like many people getting frustrated, I was screaming at the TV watching city council meetings on how come nothing's getting done, how come it's not happening, why does the process take so long? And it was actually...
You still find yourself screaming at the TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I did, even when I was on there, so there's no judgment.
Yeah, exactly, right. Silently screaming at times, but it's wanting to say, okay, you can't just want the change, you have to be the change.
Absolutely.
So if I can do that and lend a hand, offer support, do the work, then maybe I will inspire others to do that.
That's amazing.
And that's just how it happened. And it happened with City Council, Historical Society, the Lions Club, the NICE Committee. You name it, everything that I'm involved in because I truly believe that we can make a difference, and that it's our obligation to want to continue to do better.
Following that legacy of Jerry Martell and inspiring the next generation of leaders, and I think there's something special in the water in Fitchburg. You go to other communities and they don't have this type of volunteer activism where people just want to get out and serve their community like they do in Fitchburg. And I don't know what it is, but the second people get here, and I'm a transplant. I came from the North Shore at 17 and realized there's something unique about this community. This isn't like the rest of Massachusetts.
This is a community that when and if you give, it will give back.
Absolutely.
More than what you've put in. So that's,
couldn't agree more.
I've never been, nobody's ever said no to me. Yay. But you ask for help and people they're willing to do it.
Right.
So that's what keeps me going, is that it's not a solo fight. You know what I mean? You're never in it alone. There are times that it may feel, lonely, but you're never alone.
Right. It's whenever you have those moments, you look around and you find, a dozen other people that have been doing it just as long and are just as invested. I used to joke, Joel Caddy,
Oh,
would do
yeah.
everything, right? He was
Right.
involved in
Oh, yeah.
everything. And I used to Joel would say, can you swing by? And, I need 30 seconds or 15 minutes or 15 seconds. And you'd swing by. And next thing you know, 7 hours later, you're
Right.
still working. And you're like, I got Joel'd again.
Right, yeah,
and-
but he's fed you, he's given you something to drink, and you're getting a job done.
And you've had a blast doing it. And
Right.
you're laughing. And you look around and you're surrounded by great people. And you're like, what
Okay.
more can I ask for
Right.
from a community,
Right, yes.
And
Yeah.
I think there is something contagious about that. The more you do, the more you want to continue to
Yeah,
do.
of course.
Right.
Yeah, because the community gives back.
Right.
It is a very giving, generous community, and I'm thankful for that.
And I think, I think you hit it on the head of there's this moment where you want to see that change, and you have a vision of what that change is in your community, and it usually starts at, staring at or screaming at the screen, right?
Yeah.
And then realizing, I can't blame anybody else if I'm not involved in this.
Right.
And I think you really embraced that. You dove in. You got through a crowded primary, your first election, won, and you haven't looked back. You've just embraced that community service through and through.
Right. I want to continue with that. I don't know what the next venture in life will be, but it will be civic-minded. I will always have involvement in this community because I believe in it. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't reached the peak yet.
Right.
We're getting there. So I can't wait for it to peak and then prosper from that.
So you've seen a lot of the change that you were looking for when you first got involved. What's that next rung you're hoping we get to, and what gets you optimistic looking at the future of Fitchburg over the next 5 or 10 years?
I think that it really is embracing the family element of this community, where we're not, where we have a common bond, and it's going to be those attractions, those places, those events that we can all congregate and meet as a community with family.
Right.
Because family just isn't blood family. You know what I
Right.
mean? Our family is the people that we choose to share our space and time with. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing. Huge shout out this year for Civic Days and for the 4th of July event, because it's been 2 years since we've been able to be together. So I'm looking forward to being back together in this community, walking the parade route.
That's right.
Waving, shaking hands, kissing babies, or vice versa, however that works this year. But that's the kind of stuff that keeps me inspired. Is
We just
being
had
together.
Diane Burnett on the show last episode, and she was talking about 18,000 people attended
Yep.
the last Civic Days, and every year that number goes up. We could hit the point where we see more than 20,000 people come to Fitchburg, and sure, a lot of those are Fitchburg folks, but I can't tell you the number of people that come in from beyond Fitchburg.
Oh, exactly.
And I
Yes.
think sometimes we get too down on ourselves, and we don't look at all of that progress. 10 years ago, if you said we brought 10,000 people in from outside the city to celebrate Fitchburg and Civic Days, we both would have thought we're crazy. And now here we are.
Well, do you remember the year that we worked the parade?
Right.
Oh my God! First of all, the logistics of a parade, forget it. That's
Right.
a nightmare. And then judging of the floats.
That's right.
But think
10 years
about-
ago, I remember you looking and saying, "Wow, this is a pretty sad showing." And how do we get this?
Right.
How do we get this back to what it was and what it should be? And now we're talking about how do we find enough space for the spectators to
Right.
view the parade?
20,000 people.
It's amazing.
Right, 20,000 people. And the fact that we're pulling from, Leominster,
Exactly.
Ashby, Lunenburg, people, because nobody else does it. Fitchburg does Civic Days.
That's right.
Nobody else does Civic Days. We do Civic Days.
Well, you just said it so well. There's something special, there's something unique about Fitchburg, and we're just going to keep looking forward and moving up. And that's due in no small part to the efforts that you have, that you've really led and helped the city of Fitchburg move
that
on.
we do, that we
That's
lead.
right.
You know what I mean? You're sitting now at, Capitol Hill. You know what I mean? So here we are. This is what it takes as a village.
We have an amazing team, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, lots
Well-
to be proud of.
Councilor Amy Green, thank you so much for coming on the
welcome.
show, and thank you for everything you do for the city of Fitchburg. Coming up next, we have AJ Tarigny of Fitchburg State University. Stay tuned.
Excellent opening move. We played this
opening lines for the Bishop and the
many,
Queen.
many times. 10-year-old Alice Lee. Let's see a photo of Alice Lee.
So she plays H3,
Okay.
and we were thinking that mainly it's to make Luft, they call
Yeah,
it,
Luft.
German for air.
At the age 8, he was also able to play pawn football, but most of his exhibitions were where he had sight of the board. And he usually played between 15 and 20 players. Yes, I think taking with the Queen. How did Carissa respond to Bishop C4?
She plays Knight F6, attacking the pawn, Jennifer's pawn.
And we're back. Joining us now is A.J. Turigny of Fitchburg State University. I think so many in our community know A.J. as the former chief of staff to Mayor Di Natale at the city of Fitchburg, and maybe through civic days or any other number of civic and volunteer responsibilities or obligations in the city of Fitchburg.
Yes.
So it's great to see you here on the show and in a new capacity.
Yes. And
welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Representative. I appreciate it. And congratulations to you, by the way, on the new child.
Thank you.
I hope Carissa's doing well. I'm sure she's doing well. She's a team player. She knows how to swing one out of the park.
She's a fantastic mother, and
Yeah.
man, she went through a tough 9 months
Yes.
and a tough labor, but now we look at little Gabriel, and
Good.
it's made it all worth it. So thank you.
I love it. Excellent. Yeah. So as you know, I took a brief hiatus from the public sector for about 2 years. I was in the private sector, and I missed the public sector quite a bit. So I worked my way back in, and now I'm working for the president of Fitchburg State University as his assistant for community and governmental affairs and special projects. So I'm back at it. I'm happy to be here and really diving on in all that is Fitchburg, if you will, with a specific close tie to the theater block project.
I was just going to ask, what is in that portfolio of special projects?
Yeah. Right now, that is the main focus.
Sure.
Right now, that's the main focus. So I'm taking a lot of the lessons learned in my previous role working as chief of staff and the construction management skills that I learned and applying them over to the theater block.
Well, it's an amazing use of your both private and public sector experience.
Yes, yeah,
You've done
absolutely.
project management on both public and private side, and
Yes.
and you really were instrumental in laying the groundwork for the Fitchburg State Theater Block from the municipal side, from everything from zoning and parking, and really reimagining what Main Street will look like over the next decade. And now we're 3 years into really that 10-year project, and things are moving quickly.
Right, exactly, and it's been a collaborative group effort since day one, and it's great to see. So when I was chief of staff, one of the key things I loved doing was meeting down with a prospective business, and then over the course of time seeing that business flourish and come about. And we're doing the same thing here with the theater block project, right? In 2016, when the president decided that the university was going to tackle the theater block project and revitalize downtown as part of that, we saw key players step right up. Mock, New View Communities, the Art Museum, of course, Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, and of course the reimagined North Main neighborhood, the general public, and the mayor. And I think since that time, we've seen an exponential growth down on Main Street, right? We have about $250 million worth of investment happening. 370 units of housing has been permitted since 2016. And a lot of those things seemed unrealistic at the time when it was 2015, 2014, and years prior.
Right.
And now it's finally happening. Now, the key thing is for the general public is having patience, right? That's something I lack, of course, when it
You
comes
and me
to
both, yeah.
Yes, and you want to see it happen right away, right? And so it does take some time, and it's not traditional, right? The theater block's not a traditional sense of financing like we would see with the City Hall project, where
Sure.
at the time you were on the council, and and it was a loan order, and
it's not just one loan that we take out and
exactly,
the project's done in 3 years. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. It's similar to the work that Mark Dohan and the New View Community Group is doing with the Fitchburg Arts Community, where it's cobbling funding together from historic tax credits, private development, and public grants and things like that really make this project work. So we're closing in on that gap, and we're working through. So as you know, phase 1 is done. Phase 1 was the game design studio and the idea lab.
Which is state-of-the-art game design studio. And most people, I think, they look at the theater, they feel like it looks empty or closed right now, but really there's students and faculty working there each and every day.
Yes, and that program is unique throughout the entire country. I mean, they are really learning the back end of the basics of video game design and artistic design when it comes to that, which is very important for that, for that program. And in addition, the Idea Lab, we partner with New View Communities. And Mike, I brought this and I wrote this down because I thought it was important. What type of work the Idea Lab does in that area? So since its inception, which was in 2018.
Okay.
There was $3.87 million worth of grants and loans that were given out. 257 businesses were helped. 150 low to moderate income owners, 150 women owners, and 88 immigrant and English as a second language owners that were helped in that one space.
That's amazing.
And it's hard to think that happened.
So in as many years that it's been open, it's brought in $1 million for each year.
Yes,
that's outstanding.
And I think that is the key to revitalizing downtown in Fitchburg is we're providing space. We have another group that is a market expert, and then we have a group of individuals that want to be entrepreneurs, and we're kind of tying it all together. So that was phase 1, and it's very successful and still going at it. And we're working on phase 2 right now, as you know, which is the addition to a black box theater, which is new construction, right? So a black box theater is, in layman's terms, is essentially an open space, 300 seat theater that allows for flexible artistic space. So whether it be performances, lectures, you name it, town halls perhaps,
That's
if
right.
you want
Absolutely.
to have a town hall.
And that allows the audience to be kind of right on top of the stage, if you will, right?
Yes.
To have this intimate experience between
Exactly.
the performer or the center of attention and the audience.
Correct. So we're working on that, and we're hoping, we're in the process of developing design documents and hoping to get construction documents very soon. And then running parallel with that are 2 separate side projects as well, all part of the theater block. We're revitalizing 4 storefronts that are on the front. We're starting construction this month, actually, as a matter of
Wonderful.
fact, in one of the spaces, which will be a restaurant. And we're hoping to tie in a local vendor that will go in there. And then the second is a parking deck, as you are very familiar with, and that will be about a 115 space parking deck.
Excellent.
That's open to the public, part of the public down Main Street, and we're really partnering with the city of Fitchburg on that. And we just got a MassWorks application in to help provide some funding and financing for that as well. But as you know, with every project, there's always complications or areas of opportunity, I like to call them.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think you just hit it on the head, I think. But there's so many opportunities for collaboration. And what you did so well at City Hall, you're now doing at Fitchburg State, which is collaborating and bringing in all of the different pieces of the pie. It's the private sector, it's the public sector, it's city, state, federal, and then your nonprofit partners as well. And it's bringing everybody together, both from a fiscal standpoint to make that funding model and mechanism work, but also to get that support and buy-in.
Right.
And
That's right.
I think I said this to the Speaker of the House the other day when I was talking about, he said, what's the big new thing happening in Fitchburg? And I told him about the theater block, and he's like, that's outstanding. And he said, I can't tell you. He said, everybody in the community was always going to think, sure, when does that happen? And it takes forever. He said, there's 351 communities in the Commonwealth, and there's probably 200 of those theaters that people are looking to rehab.
Right.
And he said, so few communities have gotten to where you are, where it is happening. It
Right.
will happen, it's going to happen, and now you just need to close that funding gap.
Right.
And,
That's right.
And so he was so impressed about the stakeholders that have come in and the funding that's already secured.
Yep.
And I think what you do so much better than anybody else is continue to demonstrate that progress from the Idea Lab to now the storefronts. So the public, you won't have to wait 10 years to see something. You're going to see something new every couple of years that show
Correct.
you this project is unfolding before your eyes.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. And then, as we all know, public construction, it takes quite a bit of time.
That's right.
A lot of patience and a lot of thought goes into it as well. And Newview Community started their project in 2014. They just got all their financing, and we should be seeing shovel in the ground within the next few months. And the Fitchburg City Hall started in 2015 as soon as the mayor started, and it wasn't occupied until 2021, I believe.
That's right.
So we're getting there. It's a slow effort, but we're slowly picking away, and the effort's moving forward. And even before what's best about this role is when I was working for the city of Fitchburg, I was working on the city side of the theater block project, and now I'm working on the university side of the theater block project, working with the city. And the president, Jay Bry, Jeffrey Wolfman, and the foundation, Deb Phillips, all those people have put blood, sweat, and tears in the last few years trying to get this project off the ground, and they've done an excellent job at it. And we're starting to see the fruits of their labor, and I'm really happy to come on in and be part of that train ride. So.
Absolutely, and it was a lot of fun to work with Senator Cronin and Congresswoman Trahan to bring in the $3 million earmark.
Yes,
for the
and thank you
federal
very
ARPA.
much. Yes.
But that's just a small piece of the overall pie,
Correct.
and it's everybody needs to do their part. And I think whenever we have those projects, yes, it's a heavy lift, and
Yep.
yes, it means that everybody has to come together and be patient and persistent at the same time. But it also illustrates what we're capable of when we come together. And I think every time we do that, it then serves as the launch pad to the next big thing.
Yes.
And so looking forward to 5-8 years down the road, looking back and saying, the theater's open.
Yes.
What's next?
That's right.
And I have no doubt that there will be a next. And so, AJ Tarigny, thank you so much for coming on the show, for the work that you've done on the public side, on the private side, on the nonprofit side. We didn't even get into the work that you've done with Civic Days alongside Diane Burnett, who was on a last episode. But really, just thank you for everything you do for our community, and look forward to seeing you back out there.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I love it. Appreciate it.
To our folks at home, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Kushmerek Connection. Thank you to FATV and Workers Credit Union Studio. Stay tuned. We'll see you for the next episode.